This is iRacing.
It's been a Spanish-speaking tour lately in the 79s. From Jerez to Mexico, we return to Spain with Aragon today. But much like Monza earlier in the season, drivers will be locked in some intense draft battles. So prepare for action as we get ready to watch round 10 of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and joining me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Daniel Costello, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. DJ, the insanely long backstretch is certainly going to keep things close today.
Yeah, it really is, Joe. This is going to be a little bit of a battle of two halves on this circuit. One of the things to remember, Aragon, we are running the outer loop, but this is primarily built as a motorcycle racing circuit, so it's going to feel a little bit differently to these Lotus 79 cars. So when they're going around, look for the first half of this lap really to be biding time, trying to just hold position, hold stead with one another, and then once we get onto that back straightaway, that's where that draft battle's going to come into play. Very similar on a smaller scale, I think, to racing at Le Mans. We've actually seen these cars race there on the sim before, and going down the Mulsanne, it's very similar to what you're going to be experiencing there. The big difference, though, is that into that final corner, it's not a traditional heavy braking zone. It's not a chicane. It's not a hairpin. It's a little bit more of a left-handed sweeper. So yes, you are coming in at insane speeds, but you're only popping down to about third or fourth gear. It's not a heavy down into two kind of situation. So you do really have to send it if you want to make a move into that final corner. Otherwise, get a good run coming out of Marc Marquez and hope the draft is going to be able to pull you ahead by the time you get into that braking zone.
That's certainly going to be a storyline throughout, no doubt. But Aragon has also seen lots of testing in its history, just not quite as much racing on the car side. So, if you need an introduction, let's head to our track guide. Welcome to Motorland Aragon. About an hour and a half west of the Mediterranean coast, this scenic but dusty course is a more recent addition to the Spanish motorsports landscape. Built to replace a dangerous street circuit in the nearby town, it's become a hub of modern racing for the country. Motorcycles are its most famous draw, but it does see sports cars and lower-level open-wheelers visit frequently. Plus, its warm climate makes it ideal for winter testing. Its 7 layouts range between 1.5 to just over 3 miles with 12 to 18 turns. Its most iconic feature is no doubt the towering wall between turns 7 and 13 that accentuate the dramatic elevation changes. However, the difficult Sacacorcho chicane easily has the greatest drop over the shortest period. Reminiscent of Laguna Seca's corkscrew, this right-left flick leads onto a pretty long acceleration zone, even in the GP layout, so it'll be important to get that exit right. Expect most passes into turn 1 are down at the hairpin of 16. But for those who haven't gotten enough of high-speed sweepers, the motorcycle and outer layouts include one final blast uphill and into a tricky late apex. Technical and picturesque, Aragon offers up a little bit of everything and is a versatile facility. It's easy to see why it was quickly embraced by both Spanish fans and race fans worldwide. This was a much requested circuit, and as we take a look at the overhead, DJ, you can clearly see some of the points you were talking about that long straight.
Yeah, crazy long back straightaway, led into through Marc Marquez in that very, very sweeping section of the track. You know, I mentioned a little bit earlier, this is a little bit like the Circuit de la Sarthe. It's also a little bit like the place we're going to be heading to next week in Fuji. Very similar kind of designs. But watch out for this opening sector of the track. As I said, this is a motorcycle circuit. That was what it was conceived as. Plenty of testing here, but trailing behind is going to be all the important matter. In the Lotus 79s, you've got a lot more undercarriage downforce. You're dealing with Venturi tunnels and that ground effect that pulls it down into the track. So you're not going to have to worry as much about dirty air, but it's still going to be pretty tricky, particularly 3 and 4, and then coming through 6 and into 7. Heavy braking zones into 8, 7. Those are your two primary areas. I don't think you're going to see a lot of overtaking into that spot, but still could be an area to watch out for. Altogether, a technical section followed by outright speed, Joe.
Yeah, that mix of corners and non-corners that I think is going to test the drivers, because without a doubt, they're going to want to trim those cars out to get that top end speed, or else they're going to be a sitting duck coming down into 13 and 14. But we're waiting for the first times to be set, and it looks like actually we do have a couple on the board. First, we'll go through the championship as we take a look at how that sits for the F1 drivers. Now, Toga Hisada is 83 points behind, and he has a ways to go, but that is still less than a win's worth that he has to make up. He just hasn't had a win so far yet this season, and I think that's one of the big talking points. Jack David Spickett's been on a very good season, and so has Jacob Reed, but they've missed some rounds, so they have a lot to make up if they want to catch up to Partanen this late. Let's take a look at the F2 standings in the meantime, DJ.
Yeah, over in the F2 category, up at the top, it's Josephine Becker, a massive lead over Krakowiak, and so that's going to be really what you're watching out for. Main battle is going to be Maria and Krakowiak in that second place position. Moving down through the field, we've got some really tight battles there, particularly looking at 7th and 8th, Barry West and Samurai. That'll be a close one, and not too far off Moreland in front of them. So, and then my personal favorite, Ackerman and Ricciardi, tied for 9th place. That's going to be a fascinating battle to keep an eye on as well.
Absolutely. And taking a look at the race details for today, 26 laps that the drivers will be doing around here. So plenty of chances down that long straightaway. But as we mentioned, it's late in the season, round 10 out of 12. Not many opportunities left if you want to get in the hunt. It's an open setup here. I kind of talked about it. Low downforce probably going to be the call of the day, but they also don't have a spare car. So if you break it, you bought it. You don't want to get any damage, especially aero damage today. With this being a more modern track, they do have a lot of paved runoff. So that drive through at 17, that could be a serious problem. And if you go really bad on it, a disqualification at 25 incidents here today. So keep it within the boundaries. One black flag that you don't want to worry about is Black Friday, and that is going to be 50% off all new memberships until December 2nd here on iRacing. And if you already have one, still renew 25% off early renewals and reactivations. That is the best deal you're going to get all year long, and I know plenty of people take advantage of that. I know I am one of them. Trying to make sure that they get the best deal they can for a fantastic sim. Looks like we actually have most of the drivers done at this stage, and Topi has bested Jack David Spickett for that front row.
That's going to be pretty big, but look at that gap there, Joe. Not too big, only 900ths of a second. Jack David Reed sitting in third. Togo Hisada really needed to be able to make up some ground here today. 2.5 tenths of a second off. That's not the best running around. Looks like we're actually going to shorten qualifying up here a little bit. I think we're going to get right into the race. Is pretty much as you said. Everybody put down times.
Yeah, a lot quicker than I anticipated. And only 3 drivers have failed to set times. No surprise that both Jason Clapper and Kurt Clapper have decided to come from the back again and see what they can do. But Jacob Reed and Togo Hisada, not that far off. The top 4 are just a little over a quarter of a second apart from one another. So it is quite tight. So I'm curious what the racing is going to look like on that one, especially since Reed has been very quick and Hisada still looking for his first win, is going to be hungry. Okay, then. I guess with qualifying done, our grid is set. So let's take a look at that. And starting with our top runners, as we mentioned, Topi Courtenay on the pole. Jack David Spickett will be starting in second, and then Jacob Reed in third. After that, it is Togo Hisada in fourth. Gernot Friesche, the man with the most championships here, sits in fifth today. Nick Thyssen will be next to him. Gabri Martinez will start from seventh, followed by Timothy Reed in eighth, Mickey Friesen in ninth, and then Dylan Freckleton rounds out your top 10.
Moving on into the 11th place position, Joe, it's going to be Karthik Pai, followed by Aaron Blair, Juanfran Hernandez, and then Jean-Francois Boscus will be in row 7. Row 8 is going to be Dominicano Martinez, followed by Matthew Cochran, Beatrice Lank, and Alexis Tapiavico will be in row 9. Pablo Ortega will be 19th, and rounding out your top 20, you mentioned him a little bit earlier, Jason Clapper. Not setting a time here. Last row is going to be Kevin Parrish and Kurt Clapper, both of them not setting a time. So that's 3 drivers that will be coming from the back and providing a little bit of excitement for us here during the race.
They always give us some fun charging from the rear of the field as we wait for the drivers to grid up now. And the track itself is actually at a pretty good condition, 80 Fahrenheit. For the drivers today. So not too cold, but also not too hot, especially considering yesterday with the Lotus 49s, they had 133 Fahrenheit down at Winton Motor Raceway. So this will be a big relief for those who have hopped out of that older car into this newer one.
Yeah, and we also have to remember here with the tires that they are running, bias-ply tires, meaning you're not going to have to really worry about tire degradation or anything like that over the course of the running. So it is going to take a little bit while longer with those cooler temperatures to get them up to temp, but once they're in that window, they're going to stay there.
Yep, obviously they don't have any scheduled pit stops in this series, so taking care of the tires until the end is something of a concern for them, and setting up the car to take care of the tires is the other aspect of that. It's a kind of two-handed approach to try and make sure that you preserve your stuff and are quick at the end of the race. It has affected the races, including last time out when we were at Mexico City. Looks like everybody has now gridded up, so it's time for round 10 here in the classic Lotus Grand Prix series. The engines start to rev as the lights come up and the green flag is out. Off of the line, Topi Courtenay is very good in comparison to his rivals. He is down to that first corner, easily ahead of everybody else, but look at them try to siphon out in a single file. Spickett gets up to second, Reed to third, Hisada stays in fourth.
Thankfully, no real comings together on that opening lap, but as you said, up in front, doing exactly what he needs to do is Courtenay. Hisada holding on to P3. Watch on to Togo. He's going to be the driver to be making a move forward. He needs to maximize here with Paulie Parton and not in the race.
That's a good point. This is his best chance to start to strike back and get in it. They do have the drop weeks that will help Parton out, but it will take away some of his safety net. Down into Sacacorchos for the first time. Very close between Reed and Spickett there, fighting for that second place. But the all-important run out of Marquez leads them onto the back straight. Whoever gets a launch out of there is going to be in a good spot here.
Credit to Jack David Spickett. I think he was able to get everything together. Let's keep an eye on Gernot Friesche. He's going to be coming up behind Thiessen right now. Right on board with that number 4, the Austrian driver. A little bit of a lift there, actually, it seemed like, or maybe just a tick up into that 6th gear. I couldn't tell exactly, but one way or the other holding in. But we've got to watch Jacob Reed, who is putting all kinds of pressure to the back of Jack David Spickett. Not able to get it to play in the final corner, but that pressure is going to be noted by Spickett.
He was so close, but just ran out of straightaway. There is a good braking down into turn 1, a chance to maybe pass, and he shows his nose just a little bit, but decides not to make a move. Hisada still watching from behind, no doubt. Just giving this a little bit of time to see how it plays out as, Martinez in the midst of a lot of craziness down to that first corner. Some cars completely off the track.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was a little bit of contact with Jean-Francois Boscus or if there was a little bit of just a misjudgment there. But Tapiavico right now running in the 16th position. He's going to be trying to put a little bit of pressure here onto the back, make it 15 on the back of Parrish. Side by side coming down into the right-hander. This is getting a little bit spicy. Parrish able to close the door for now. No, excuse me, Vico's got the position on it.
That's up to 14th. Nice move around the outside of 7 and 8. Not something you see very often. A bit of a fight, it seems, behind them for a brief moment. But here we go again. There is a train of cars behind Alexis. Parrish is in there. Jason Clapper, Martinez, Ortega. I think this is going to be quite the fight coming down to 13 and 14, including this run behind Ortega. Look at that. Boskus and Kurt Clapper are now getting a huge tow.
A double toe coming in, but look, as he poked out, he kind of ran out of speed there a little bit. Ortega just trying to hold on and see if he can do anything in that number 17. Let's see. As the 20 pokes his nose to the inside. That's Ortega. Buskies doesn't have the run. And again, this is a little bit of what we talked about, Joe. It's a great draft coming down into that final corner, but the heavy braking zone, not enough to be able to get it to do. And now Buskies is going to take the attack into turn 1. Good patience here from the Frenchman.
Gets by Ortega. Nice, smooth move into that first turn. That's going to move him or Boskus rather, up into 18th. Martinez, though, trying to run away as we check back in with Gernot Frische. Gabri Martinez in a little bit of a fight with him, along with Nick Thyssen. And it's going to have to settle itself out down at Sacacorchos. This is a steep drop into this corner. They're still wheel to wheel. Frische in the blue machine is going to have the inside of the longer part of the corner, but he doesn't quite have the traction. You can see the rear squirming. He uses that shorter line to be ahead, but a cut back underneath from Martinez is going to take it right back.
This is a Lotus 79. This isn't a dirt sprinter, but we just saw a beautiful crossover move as if you were running the rim there. I love to see that from Martinez. And now that opposite line that Gernot Frische just took is going to put him under pressure from that red machine of Timothy Reed, who ride on board with the number 8, the American. Again, not really having the ability to dive down into that final corner and get a pass done, but watch for him to get a better line into turn 1.
They were caught up by Freckleton, Blair, and Friesen behind them for a brief moment with that huge draft. Reed lifts early. I don't think he felt like it was on down at turn 1 past Gernot Frische. He knows he's going to have to get up pretty early to outbreak multi-time champion. Meanwhile, back into 3 and 4 now. Here's where things tighten up with this set of tricky corners.
Yeah, these are going to tighten back up again, and we've seen from Frische in that battle that there's plenty of side-by-side to be had through this technical section of the track. But Reed looking like he's losing a little bit of ground here as Martinez and Frische maybe are in a little bit of a fight. Pokes to this way, pokes to that way. Frische going to try to the inside.
Oh, that was aggressive, and he was given space at the apex. This time he's on the other side of where he was last time. Did he learn a little something, getting overtaken by Martinez? No, he cannot pull the same move on the number 10. Even still, he's going to get a nice run here as we see Timothy Reed chasing in with Dylan Freckleton in tow, and then Aaron Blair behind them. They'll plunge down the hill, and Gernot Frische's got a huge run. Martinez covers the inside, forcing Frische to go to the outside as they come up to the braking into turn 13. And he's not quite there, but he's going to hang around that outside line as long as he can. He's got a little bit of an overlap, and he's going to keep the speed. He goes almost fully off the course, coming off the corner. He's got to watch out for that, and looking for the braking down into turn 1. He's still not there.
Yeah, but he's looking for a crossover here through 1. Well defended there from Martinez. Here he goes. He's going to look again. Down the inside. How did they not make contact?
They may have made contact. It was that close between them. Interlocking wheels down into turn 3. That leaves the door open. Thankfully, it looks like Timothy Reed is not able to step through. If you're Gernot Frische, he'll hold on to that 7th position, at least for the time being. But Gernot really wants to get through. It looks like he's being held up.
Yeah, and look at this train starting to form behind Frische. Reed, Freckleton, Blair, Friesen, everybody getting pulled into this train. I think you're right, Joe. Frische needs to be able to make this move. He's got to be aggressive here, but I've got to give credit on the flip side of that to Gabri Martinez as he defended incredibly well on that run, and particularly coming down into the final quarter. Jacob Brito, Jack David Spickett side by side.
This is for 2nd place. Reed's been working on this. He's got the inside, sends it in deep down into the final corner, and I think he's going to make it stick. Well done. There's the gap between themselves and Cortinemi in the foreground. And it is ballooned up to about 2 seconds. Now, Reed with the clean air. Can he do something to catch up to the 2?
Well, it looks like looking at the back, Jack David Spickett didn't have the best line through turn 1. So I'd say right now that Reed may have an ability to be able to get himself moving and get himself forward. We'll have to keep an eye on those times, though, as it doesn't quite look like Jack David Spickett's going away quietly.
Not at the moment, at least. We'll see what happens when they get to that back straightaway again, because he could try and fight back. And that'd probably be the worst thing that they want in this situation. They need to stay single file to catch up to Topi Kortiniemi. And the background, yeah, we can still see Togo Hisada there. Doesn't seem to have been a threat lately from what we've seen on our pictures, as we can see a huge slide there from JDS trying to get the power down.
Well, and as we mentioned a little bit earlier in the race in regards to Togo, this isn't a situation where I think he would necessarily be saving his stuff unless he's doing a fuel save strategy, which I seriously doubt he would be doing. You can push pretty flat out in these cars in the bias ply tires. Jack David Spickett, though, making a run on Reed.
Well, there you go. That answers the question. It's now a battle for best of the rest if they keep up like this, unless they can somehow use the leapfrog method to catch up to him, but it doesn't look like that is working, as the last time by Kortiniemi ran, it looks like a 25.5. Meanwhile, Spickett with a 25.591, Reed with a 25.9. So, yeah, they're losing ground.
Yeah, they're definitely losing ground to Kortiniemi, and I think this may be a little bit of a calculated battle between Spickett and Reed. They may recognize that number 2 just has too much speed there, as Spickett goes a little bit wide, able to come back and cover off the line through the right-hander, but he's leaving opportunity for Jacob Reed to be able to get this attack.
To check real quick to see if he got a slowdown penalty for that, because I'm kind of surprised. Abusing the track limits maybe a little bit, but I guess I don't have a marker there in iRacing to keep you from abusing that too much. Frisha versus Martinez. This has been going on since pretty much the start of the race. No wonder Gernot wants to get by. One thing I hadn't noticed, he is down 2 from where he started, so it's not been the best of beginnings for today's race.
Yeah, car looked a little bit twitchy there for Gernot coming down through that Marc Marquez corner. Just looked like he wasn't fully able to get the power down the way he would have liked to, and I think that's going to cost him a little bit of an opportunity here on Gabriel Martinez. The draft is helping. Martinez not looking like he's going to go defensive, maybe just a half line off. Frisha looks to the outside, going to try to roll that speed around the high line, now comes with the cut under. You know, Frisha clearly has more speed here, and I've got to give credit to Gabriel Martinez. This is just defensive masterclass 201.
Doing a fantastic job, no doubt about that. And I'm kind of amazed that we haven't seen the slipstream beam a little bit more powerful. Checking now in with Martinez and Cockrum. Martinez going to be able to get by as one car uses the track limits ahead. That's Jason Clapper going way wide. Alexis Tapiavico going to cut back underneath him and be able to sneak by there back into P13. But the job is not done, as now they're being approached by Martinez, catching up hand over fist, both of them going wide, sending it into turn 4.
Yeah, trying to just maximize as much as possible here, and I love what I'm seeing here from Martinez in the back. Also loving his livery, the Newman Haas throwback, absolutely spectacular in this car. But he's just biding his time. I think he senses a little bit of consternation, a little bit of frustration in front from the likes of Vico and Clapper, and he's just waiting for that opportunity to push ahead.
I'm glad you noticed that as well. I was trying to figure out if it was Mansell's or Andretti's. If it's Andretti's, it's very fitting considering this car.
Well, but if it's Mansell's, it's easy to tell. Red 5.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
But he's not going to be able to determine a 5 on his car in the official racing.
If it's red numerals, then we know.
Okay, there we go. Well, Topi Kortiniemi now 3 seconds ahead. He is just picking them up and putting them down out at the front. So Topi looking to gather up another win. I believe he's only got, one this season, and that was at Jerez. So Spanish tracks seem to work well for the Finn.
Well, I mean, Spanish tracks do have a specific design to them a little bit, although Jerez is a little bit more in the old school, and this is sort of in the newer school vein. Obviously, this track built back in 2009. Here comes Reed, though, making his way on through. Gernot Frischa able to get by Gabriel Martinez, and now it's going to be a fight between Frischa and Reed.
Yeah, Reed looking like he's been able to capitalize on this slow up, but he gets balked by Gernot coming down from second Corchos, and Gabri is right back into P7. Watch out for Dylan Freckleton and the bright purple machine. He's been doing very well in the Teams Championship in this series, and they're all going to start to accordion back together as the toe pulls them in. My goodness, Martinez so much quicker in a straight line. There's our answer why Gernot has been having a harder time getting by. Gabri is the one more trimmed out of the two.
Yep, I think you hit the nail on the head with that one, Joe. And now everybody trying to follow on through. Dylan Freckleton, as you mentioned, making the move on Timothy Reed, but Reed's going to be able to pull a little bit more speed to the inside. Now Frischa with the crossover. Nice slider from the Austrian.
I think he knew he was going to have better grip there on the inside. Oh, but he leaves the door open. Is Martinez going to be able to make the corner? Very close between Frischa and Freckleton. Somehow they didn't touch. But now Gabri is back into P6. In the background, I think that was Timothy Reed just sailing off in the distance.
I think it was as well. He's going to fall back a good distance behind Dylan Freckleton now. All right, so now that we know a little bit of what this battle is like, we now understand Gernot's got to attack through this technical section and try to get enough of a gap here on Gabriel Martinez that it's not going to matter coming straight away. That's what Gernot's got to do.
Well, it's certainly not going to work out by this stage. He's still sitting behind him, so maybe I'll have to wait for next lap by. They've actually put a little bit of distance between themselves and Freckleton, and that may help him out too, not having to battle a whole bunch of other cars behind him as well as trying to fight with the Spanish driver just in front. Long, gentle curve here on to the back straightaway, easily flat out, and then as you can see, quite downhill. That is Nick Thyssen in the foreground that has just been stretching away from the pair of them lap after lap. Gernot to the inside, but not nearly close enough by the time they hit 13.
And credit there to Martinez. That was obviously a move from Frischa, just trying to get him to bite a little bit on the outside, see if he could be able to get him to play. And Gabri didn't fall for it. He just stuck to his line. And again, this goes into that defensive masterclass that we're seeing here. Thyssen almost running a little bit wide there coming out of that opening sector. But yeah, Thyssen, the Dutchman, just in a field unto himself.
Sure, he doesn't mind having a bit of a quieter race compared to what we saw back in Mexico. Gabri having to give space down at the apex, down at turn 4. Now Frischa tries to fight back once again, and it looks like he is able to get a little bit of a cut back, but I don't think this is going to be enough unless he's massively aggressive on the brakes. He's given a little bit of room, but again, he's going to be on the wrong side here down through Saka Corchos and still cannot dethrone that number 10 car.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of that sequence of corners. Whoa, big wiggle for Martinez as he gets the power down. Could that affect this run here for Gernot Frischa?
It might not. We've seen him this close before, and he still doesn't seem to be able to make any sort of slam dunk pass. And indeed, he's gaining so slow here. He's going to move to the outside. Now with Martinez just covering him off, coming into the long left-hander. And as they both brake, he's using that extra downforce to send it in deeper, maybe carry the momentum around the outside. He's got it, and he is ahead once again.
Yeah, but we've seen Martinez do exactly this. Fight back to the inside. Gernot's going to know it. He's going to try to keep momentum around the outside. Brilliant there for Martinez, playing it at the apex. But Gernot's going to have the preferred line for turn number 2.
Nicely done. The 4 now finds himself in 6, where he wants to be in this part of the track. Can he pull away in time to get rid of the toe from Gabri?
That's going to be the question. He has got to just hope that he is able to use that higher downforce level that we believe he's running to be able to extend an advantage. Beautiful shot there of Thyssen right in front, but here he comes. Already the gap starting to grow a little bit. Call that about half a second in between Martinez and Frischa.
All right, this is going to be telling. We haven't seen him this far away before, but we know that Martinez is going to have massive speed advantages coming down this straight. He's also going to pull along Freckleton a little bit. It starts at that half second that you mentioned. I'm watching the number as they approach that next corner. He's weaving to try to break the toe, desperate to get that car away from him, from losing that position once again. He places it right in the middle of the track, just about the time they get to the braking. Martinez gets there, but he's not ahead. That was critical.
That was mega from Bernard Prix. I think that may be just enough for him to be able to hold on to that position. And now Frisch's best friend is that purple machine of Dylan Freckleton. He wants a battle to take place between Gabby Martinez and Freckleton because that'll let him just scamper off into the distance.
Yeah, but Gernot's not done. He's got to still push in this sector because, like we said, he needs to take advantage of the advantage that he has in this part of the track. Back up to Jack David Spigot. He and Jacob Reed have been fighting pretty much this whole time, although I don't think it's been as much of a back and forth as what we've been watching there for the sixth place battle. But still, they've been hovering oh so close. Jacob Reed trying to get a good run coming out of Marquez, knows that he also needs to try and keep JDS far enough behind.
Yeah, he needs to try to hold him off here, and I think he's going to be okay on the back straightaway for now. Jack David Spigot just lost a little bit of ground. The car got a little bit wiggly coming out of Marquez. Now, I say that, he's got a nice little run here, but I think the Finnish driver recognizes he's not quite close enough to be able to pull in that gap and doesn't want to sacrifice a close run here for the position of sending a move off.
So here's where things get a little bit interesting as we check back in with Aaron Blair. That's Timothy Reed just in front in the red machine. Reed won last time out at Mexico City, but the car didn't look fast at the start. He took the pole position, fell behind off the line, and then suddenly just trounced Topi and the other Finns late in the race. I wonder, now that we've hit halfway, if we'll see Reed start to move forward a bit.
Well, one of the things to keep in mind about this Lotus 79 series, Joe, is the fact we don't have pit stops. So these cars are very light, they're very, very nimble, but they're very much affected by the weight distribution of the car, as particularly how the fuel affects that weight. As these cars get lighter, they get dancier, they get looser, they get a little bit more nimble. And so you can set your car up to really maximize in that potential. Now, that could be what Blair is doing, or you could be like Portinemi, who I think set the car up to be perfect at the beginning, and now he's stretching his advantage now and hope it's going to play through the rest of the race.
Yeah, he's got about 3.5 seconds, so he does have a decent margin. It's continued to go up since the start. It was Boscus, who's already given us some fun, is back with Matthew Cockram. This is for 15th. And out of Marquez, ooh, he's much quicker at this stage. He's going to have a huge toe, maybe a little bit too early. And now we could see it given right back to Cockram if he goes by too soon, or he just doesn't have enough speed here. Look at that.
Yeah, just stalls out, and I think that's a little bit of that issue that you talked about. He may be a little bit more trimmed down, may have a little bit more downforce into the car, does Boscus, and that could prevent him from being able to get that run that he needs to up in front of him.
So the Frenchman is not going to make the pass this time by the British number 19, holds on to that 15th position. A little bit of a look, but that was just too far back for anything realistic from Jean-Francois. All right, lap 15 into this race. We talked about Jason Clapper and how he likes to not qualify to see how many cars he can pass. Today, the number is 7. He's taken that hard charger claim many a time, and while it's not as high of a number as we've seen in the past, it's the highest number today.
It's a good run here from Clapper, although I would be remiss if I didn't say, Joe, one of our dear friends, Subzan, would say, hey, didn't qualify, doesn't count for hard charger, but nevertheless, we'll go ahead and count it. It's a great run, and it's keeping us excited.
Yeah, it's something that Jason is just kind of become known for, and like you said, it's kind of his own method to it. My goodness, that was Vico that we saw in the black car there that suddenly decided to give Marc Marquez a bit of a miss.
Yeah, just decided to take a different line. Here's farther back in the field, Kurt Clapper and Martinez. Okay, that's the Andretti car. It's white numerals, so that's Mario's car right there, which is fitting, as you said, because Mario won the World Championship in 1978 in this very Lotus 79.
Exactly. And he's bringing along Kurt Clapper here. Another Very cool livery that he traditionally runs in this series, that sort of Miller Lite scheme coming up into the final turn. He's not nearly close enough to Martinez to try and make this a battle yet, but he's keeping him honest. He's remaining nearby, making sure that there can't be any slip-ups from that 16 car.
Well, and credit here to Clapper. I mean, we're sitting here talking about a Newman Haas livery. This is a True Sports livery. This is Bobby Rahal from back in the day. That's what this number 22 is replicating. At least that's what I'm thinking it is. So we've got Newman Haas versus True Sports. This might as well be a Champ Car race in 1987. This is great.
A good call on that one. I was trying to think if I had remembered a Miller Lite scheme from back in the day, and I'd forgotten Bobby ran this. But they do love their classic liveries here in this series, as has become evident from our chatter about this topic. Hopefully, they'll give us a classic fight on top of it, but it's going to have to get a little closer than this.
Yeah, it's going to have to be a little bit closer, but we will see how they go. I'm double-checking right now.
Yeah, go ahead. Blair just actually got by Timothy Reed on screen that we saw there. So that was down the back straightaway. But from what I could see, it seemed like maybe Reed lifted a little bit and allowed that pass to happen, thinking it's better to get back into line here because they do still have Mickey Friesen and the Nissan liveried Lotus in behind them. Obviously, he runs the IMSA Vintage Series, frequently does Mickey, hence why he's brought that over here to the Lotuses. As we check in, Martinez, when did he get passed by Freckleton? I didn't realize that Dylan had gotten through.
I think he's been working on him over the last couple of laps. It must have just happened. And by the way, apologies to the diehards out there, and particularly to Kurt Clapper. It's actually a Team Rahal livery from back in 1998 or so. So I was off by about 10 years. Mario would have retired by the time that they faced off against each other. So
yeah, at least in those liveries,
right?
So yeah, they didn't cross paths, but still two classic Indy cars on a Formula One car. And here we go. Freckleton might once again lose out to the number 10, who, man, he's just got a car that is faster than anybody else once it hits the straights, although it stalls out here. And now suddenly fights back. They nearly touch wheels coming into the corner, and they'll get away with it for now. No fear between the pair of them.
No fear, and great heads up from Dylan Freckleton. His head out. He's going to take a look down to the inside. I think he's going to be able to outbrake Martinez here. Yes, he is. He's going to be able to hold that. And what you saw there coming down the back straightaway, Joe, that was actually a little bit of a stock car racing maneuver. That was side draft that Martinez was getting pulled off of from Freckleton. Freckleton came up alongside, used that pocket of air to pull himself and to stall out Martinez. These cars punch such a big hole in the air, it is possible to be able to get the side draft on.
Which is again fitting, because one thing Andretti was known for is racing anything and everything, and he did run in NASCAR during his career. So, as we continue to watch them fight, will Martinez be able to make the pass this time? As he does seem to be quite quick. Look at him go all the way out to the outside, flirting with danger. You can sometimes get slowdown penalties at some points on this track if you go too far outside of the boundaries. And he's going to have a nice run due to his opening up of that exit as he starts to reel in the Brit.
Yeah, and I think that was a good play for him. Even if he did get a little bit of a maybe an 1X, he's going to look to the inside, try to outrank Freckleton. Ooh, gave him a little bit of a shot across the bow, too, but moved Martinez back into 7th.
It impresses me how little room they're giving one another, but they haven't made contact. Freckleton could have the cut back here coming off the final turn. He'll look down to the inside. It's a little bit deeper on the brakes. He gets to the apex first, and he's going to get the spot right back. Gabriel Martinez has been the action vehicle this entire race. We have not seen him outside of a battle.
No, we really haven't. He has been involved in the thick of it the entire time. My question's frankly going to be is if Freckleton's able to extend from him, if he's going to be maybe a little bit of an island unto himself, what's going to happen? I mean, he's got Blair and Reed behind him, but I think there's a very real possibility that if Martinez loses a little bit of this draft help in front of him, he may just find himself running by himself by the time this race is over.
Yeah, that train that was there earlier on in the race is very much broken up. Now it's just mostly a couple pairs. This one being one of them. You mentioned Blair and Reed just behind them. They're also fighting for position. But Frisha is caught up to this, and here we go. Another good exit coming out onto the back straightaway. And Martinez is through. This time he's a little bit farther ahead and coming right back at him. Dylan Freckleton using that side draft, getting close to being able to retake the position. Takes it deeper into turn 13. He'll be ahead. A cut back from Martinez, trying to use the same move right back on Freckleton from the last lap, and it looks like it is working. That's forcing a defense from the number 9, but he comes back to the racing line, leaves the door open, leaves some space at the apex, and they don't swap spots.
No, they don't swap spots, but I think definitely what's happening here is the same thing that's happening just a little bit in front of him with Frisha and Thyssen. As Frisha is now able to get it, Thyssen goes a little bit wide, gets a wiggle. Gernot, here he goes.
Nicely done. That's P5. I'm impressed by that. It was something like 2.5 seconds, I think, up to Nick when Gernot made that pass. And that goes back to kind of what I was talking about earlier in the race. Clearly, Frisha was being held up, being in that train. He probably could have been maybe, who knows, a lot closer to Hisada by this stage.
Yeah, and I think at this point, this is probably about as far up as Frisha's going to go. Togo's 13 seconds up the road, but I don't think this battle's done yet, as here comes Nick right back on him. And that's a little bit of a heads-up play from Gernot. I think he recognized that Thyssen had more speed, maybe with what we kind of expected, that Gernot's running a heavier downforce package, that he wanted to just pull up behind and try to minimize that by using the draft.
Oh, look at the car slide in front of him. That's going to allow Gernot to get awful close. Actually gets a better run. Is he going to stall out a little bit, though? He's just to the inside, down into the first corner. Wheel-to-wheel action through there is going to get the inside down into 2. Back to Nick once again, but he's maybe just not quite brave enough trying to find the grip. Look at Gernot fly past him.
And that's all that heavier downforce package, Joe. He's just got so much confidence in this car. He knows what it's going to do. He knows how it's going to handle, and he just trusts out. Here's Freckleton, by the way. Freckleton able to hold on still over Gabriel Martinez.
And that little puff of smoke, I think, was a mistake from Nick. Just as we switched over here, suddenly the tower, look at the gap between Gernot and Nick. It's up to 2.5 seconds. So a critical mistake there from Thyssen, as now we give our attention to Freckleton Martinez once again. Dylan getting by once more, but we know that Martinez is going to be just a rocket ship here coming onto the back straight of this circuit. Here he goes again.
Here he goes, and to your point about that mistake, remember, 1978 spec car here. No ABS, no power steering, no accoutrement on it whatsoever. So very easy to lock the brakes, but look at Martinez just shooting on by once again, immediately goes defensive.
This is getting a little bit spicy, and this time I think they will actually make contact into there, have the tempers boiled over at this stage. This is another move now by Dylan Freckleton, getting the run, but he's being forced down to the inside. Martinez not willing to give him the room this time. I am starting to get the sense this is no longer a friendly rivalry.
No, I think this has a real potential to come to blows here if they're not careful. They need to stay in single file order and just breathe for a moment, not see red, and try to calm down, because as close as they were running down that back straightaway, this is a millimeter away from disaster.
Yeah, especially with that cut across on the back straightaway. I mean, if you have contact that high of speed, it can be curtains for both cars. And we saw that in the past at this track with drivers making contact here and winding up in a heap at the side of the road. So Martinez once again trying to get that power down. He's going to look like he's a bit far back here, but he'll start to reel him in. He's got to watch out. All this battling has meant that Aaron Blair is getting bigger and bigger in their mirrors.
Yeah, Blair's been able to catch up because that battle between Reed and Blair has kind of fizzled out a little bit. So what this has allowed is for him to just absolutely close on in and just watch as here comes Martinez down to the inside once again. That lesser downforce package coming to play. He's going to be able to get the move.
Right, back into P7 once again, but this is where we've seen this happen time and time again. Oh, but he's covering all the way down to the inside. Aggressive defense. Freckleton says, no biggie. I'm just going to go around the outside, take the inside of turn 2. We've seen that work a few times in this race, but it isn't over yet. They're going to make contact. Both of them off the course, and here comes, oh my goodness. Freckleton just got a black flag as both Blair and Reed get by Martinez. So unfortunately for Dylan, he has paid for the aggression.
You hate to see that there for the Isle of Man driver with the black flag being given, and I think Martinez may have suffered a little bit, either a slowdown there or potentially some damage as he fell down through the order as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it is a bit of damage. So Toga Hisada, that is not JDS just in front of him. That is a lapped car that he's just going through now, pulled off to the side. Up at the top of the screen, we've seen Jacob Reed, I think, take 3 fastest laps in a row. So the car looking very, very good. Let's take another look at that incident, though, here from above and see if we can maybe dissect this a little bit.
I mean, that's Freckleton's line.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that is absolutely Freckleton's line. And then Freckleton gets the contact, goes off a little bit. That's just going to be those multipliers that come back to bite you. But I've got to put that blame squarely on Gabriel Martinez. He was behind Freckleton. Freckleton had the corner, and he clearly just drove into him.
Yeah, maybe just didn't leave enough space there. And you're right about Martinez, though. He is now down to 12th position. That car is wounded, and I don't think he is going to be having the good finish that he was hoping for. Jack David Spickett sitting in 3rd, started on the front row. Not looking like he's going to finish there these days, as he's now nearly 2 seconds behind Jacob Reed. And there is Jacob Reed. So 3.5 seconds up to Courtenay with 3 laps to go. Unfortunately, as fast as that one car looks right now, he's just run out of time.
Yeah, and just to put a bow on the conversation here about Gabriel Martinez, we looked at that car very briefly. It didn't look like there was any damage on it, but we've got to remember where the majority of the downforce in this car comes from. That is the undercarriage, and that contact on the side skirts like that, if there is a break, if there is any sort of problem that exists in creating that Venturi tunnel under the car, iRacing models that incredibly well, and it will show up in performance, and that's exactly what's happened here to Gabriel Martinez. You can see the wings look fine, everything looks good. My guess is he's got some undercarriage damage.
Yeah, I think you're right. Somewhere just went across the curbs, maybe in that incident, and found himself having to deal with that. Or it could be maybe a suspension problem of some sort. While Dylan Freckleton has the walk of shame, unfortunately, down pit lane to serve that drive-through penalty. It looks like he might not even emerge until outside of the top 15.
Yeah, it's going to be a heartbreak for Freckleton, who ran a really good race involved in that battle. But this is music to the eyes of Jason Clapper, who gains another position. Your hard mover just keeps on chugging.
Yep, that's up to 8 positions gained now for the number 13. And with Martinez in front of him, well, he's going to capitalize on both of them having issues, because clearly, like we said, Gabri seems to be off the pace. So I wouldn't be shocked if this Marlboro liveried car is suddenly passed in the next lap or 2.
Yeah, I would not be surprised by that at all. I think Gabri's certainly a little bit of walking wounded here. And there, down to the inside goes Clapper. Shuts the door on him, though. That's not going to make for a happy Jason Clapper.
Yeah, white flag is out, 1 lap left to go, so not many chances for Clapper to get this done. And as we've seen, things can get spicy with the number 10, so maybe give him a bit of a wide berth here just in case as they fly down the back straightaway. And yeah, it looks like he has the speed as he just noses ahead ever so slightly. But the job is now done. I couldn't quite tell to see if he was completely ahead at that stage. Meanwhile, Topi Courtenay, the gap still at about just over 3 seconds. Nobody really in the same shot as him in most of these angles.
No, and I want to give credit here to Courtenay. As you said, Reed able to really knock out a couple of fast laps there, but Courtenay able to respond, bring that speed up, and make sure that that gap's going to stay at about 3.5 seconds as they make their way onto the back straightaway right now.
Topi did not show up to the first 3 rounds. That's why he is not as high up as you would expect in the championship. But he has taken a single win. He's had good results most of this season, and he's going to make that 2 victories here today as he exits the final corner and wins for the 2nd time in Spain this season.
A good run for Quartzanemi. Jacob Reed, going to hold in behind Jack David Spickett. That's what I was trying to say earlier. The Finnish driver will come home 3rd. Togo Hasada, a respectable 4th, but I think he would have liked a little bit more to try to close in on Pauli Partsinen.
Didn't look like he was quick enough today. Frisha at least will finish where he started, but boy, he made some hard work out of it, you have to admit, as Nick Bisson likewise will be where he began this race in 6th place. How about Aaron Blair? We've talked so much about Jason Clapper. 5 spots gained, and that's at the sharp end of the field here for the number 21 car, mind you, out of 22. So his I rating does not show what speed that car has. There is Clapper taking the hardest charger award in this race. We're going to wind up with 18 cars finishing on the lead lap today. And poor Dylan Freckleton right at the end getting that black flag. Only a 13th position when it could have easily been a top 10 for him. As the last of them get to the line, and our winner celebrates out at the front, taking his victory lap around. That gives us a chance to go through the finishing order for today's event. Topi Kortaniemi, your winner out at the front, taking it from pole position, and behind him it was Jacob Reed, who wound up in 2nd spot. It was Jack David Spickett who swapped with Reed, finishing in 3rd. Togo Hasada in 4th, just off the podium. Gernot Frisha, P5, Nick Disson in the 6th position. From there, Aaron Blair, as we said, doing a great job getting 7th. Timothy Reed finishing in 8th, and Mickey Friesen, a bit of a quiet 9th. Juan Fran Hernandez was in that big group for quite a while. He was up 3 to finish 10th.
Moving back into 11th place, it was your hardest charger, Jason Clapper, followed by Gabri Martinez, finishing out after that damage in contact with the 13th place driver, Dylan Freckleton. Alexis Tapiavico was 14th, followed by Matthew Cockerham. Then it was Jean-Francois Boscus, and then Dominicano Martinez and Kurt Clapper, the last driver on the lead lap. Ortega and Yang were in the top 20, 1 lap down.
After that, I think we only had 2 DNFs in the form of Kevin Parrish and Karthik Pai. We didn't actually get to cover what happened to them, so I'll have to investigate, see what we could dig up. We are getting word that Karthik Pai may have pulled off with some mysterious issues that could have been potentially maybe something just in the real world that we aren't aware of. In the meantime, I think we're waiting on some of our podium finishers to come and join us to have a little bit of a chat. DJ, this was both the race that we were looking for in the slipstream battle, but at the same time, not. There was a lot harder time for some drivers making passes.
Yeah, and I'm really impressed with the tenacity that we saw through that technical portion of the track. I think one of the more interesting things that really played out was the battle of setup ideals. More downforce versus less downforce. Obviously, that battle with Gabri Martinez, we saw quite often with that trimmed out car and how drivers were having to sort of strategize around how to get that to work in their favor.
There's some very interesting chatter about those setups on the iRacing chat right now, post-race, between our top 3, including Topi saying his setup was incredibly sketchy, which kind of shocks me because, I mean, he looked so stable up at the front. It didn't ever look like he was challenged, DJ.
It just goes to show you what you don't see behind the wheel of the car. These drivers are such absolute pros that they're able to make a tricky setup really work to their advantage. So that's really credit to the driving talent in this field. And not altogether unsurprising. These are some of the best, and these are very hard cars to control when your setup is perfect. I can't even imagine when your setup's a little bit rough.
Yeah, that's a good point. They are very raw cars. Next race out, we're going to be heading off to Fuji, as DJ mentioned, kind of similar to this track, as they have that long front straightaway instead that will offer a lot of drafting. Looks like we can chat with Topi maybe about next round, but first let's talk about this round. and how that setup felt, because Topi, we were just commenting on, we saw your conversation post-race about the setups. The car looked solid from our perspective. What was so hard to drive about it from inside the cockpit?
I mean, I had a few moments, especially in turn one, with the bumps and the 3D curves, and I was super careful with the throttle after that. So I couldn't really push for a fastest lap, even though I wanted it for the extra 2 points. But it's good if it looked like stable, but I can tell you it wasn't.
Well, that also explains why we kept seeing Jacob Reed taking fastest laps from you on that front. Were you just kind of watching the margin there? Were you just managing the gap?
Yeah, I was watching the margin. I think I had a solid gap developing about 1/10. Then suddenly Jacobs just got a lot faster, so I tried to push for a faster lap. But it was hard. I almost lost control in places.
So clearly you're talking about points. Are you thinking championship? Because I know you missed the first 3 races, but obviously the drop rounds will help you here later on.
I think I haven't done the calculations, but if I win the remaining 2 or 3 races, I might have a chance to beat Pauli, but I haven't accounted what Jacob or Jogo or JDS does. So yeah, I think it might be a 4-way, 5-way battle for champion, maybe.
Obviously, Partonen not showing up today eats up one of his drop rounds. Certainly an impressive charge back into the fray after not showing up at the early stages. Congratulations on the win.
Thanks, Joe.
No problem. That was our Victor Topi Kortaniemi. It looks like he might be our only interview today. So we'll set him aside and we'll wrap this one up. DJ, it's been a joy getting back with you. It looks like you've got some plans for today, so I'll let you get to that in a bit.
Just a little bit. Gotta go see my Colts do their thing. But no, it's been fantastic getting back into the series. Joe, you and I really cut our teeth here, and this is always one of my favorite series to call. And this is exactly the kind of racing action that we come to expect from a series such as this. Tight, close quarters combat between these drivers and keeping it, for the most part, pretty clean. And I think if you enjoyed what you're going to see here today, tune back in next week. Fuji, a very, very similar track in layout to Aragon, and I think you're going to see a lot of the same this next time out as we head to the land of the rising sun.
Yeah, these vintage cars can tend to hook people and make a fan out of them once they see them race. But that's going to wrap it up for us. So, of course, we want to give some big thank yous, of course, to the team today, DJ and Daniel, as well as Dougie. Make sure and subscribe so you don't miss a moment. We've got some more races and other series coming up this week. MX5 United will be at VIR coming up later on here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.
This is iRacing.